Hey, what's going on, Guardians? Gray here. Welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over the Thermal Erosion machine gun. Now, this is one of few machine guns that are still in the game after sunsetting. A lot of our LMGs got sunset with the launch of Beyond Light, but Thermal Erosion is a new one that's available on Europa. And it's pretty strong and has some really cool, unique rolls on it and some new perks that were just introduced in Beyond Light as well. So we're going to take a look at it, talk about the God rolls for it for PvE and PvP. We'll take it one step at a time and break it all down. So if you guys enjoy the video, please leave a like below. Consider smashing that subscribe button for me. But with that being said, let's dive right into it and look at everything that's available on this weapon. So here we are on my little template that I put together from images on LiQWYD, and we can finally see the stats and all the different information about this LMG. Now, it's a rapid fire LMG, which means it has a high rate of fire. So it's sort of like our 21% Delirium. If you remember that LMG from Gambit back in Forsaken, it's very similar to that. The stats aren't too crazy on this thing, but that's okay because it's really about the perk rolls that matter on this specific LMG. Getting straight into it, in that first column, we have barrel options available like we do on a lot of different weapons. Not scopes, but barrels. And there's a few things that we want to consider looking at this LMG. Depending on if you play on controller or PC, it's going to determine what you might want to go after. Or I guess mouse and keyboard is what I meant to say, controller or M and K. It's going to determine how much you value stability. But I want to say there's a couple perks we're going to be going after that may not make it so you need so much extra stability. But there's a couple things like corkscrew rifling is going to give you extra range, handling, and stability if you want sort of an even spread of your stats. But if you want to go for max range, which I would recommend, you're going to want to go with either full bore, which is going to give you plus 15 range, but that has a drawback of giving you negative 10 stability and negative 5 handling. Or you can go with hammer forged rifling, which is just a flat plus 10 range. Of course, there are some other options that aren't bad, like small bore will give you range and stability. Of course, none of these barrel options are really going to hinder your experience with this LMG. It's really the final two columns that determine what it's worth. Moving on to the second column, there's going to be a couple variants here depending on what you're using this LMG for. If you're using this for straight PvE, I would really recommend going for a pinned mag. That's going to give you plus 20 magazine size, and that's sort of a weak point of this LMG is the magazine size is pretty small. And when you're picking up heavy ammo bricks and stuff, you're going to notice it. You're not going to get a lot of ammo when you're picking up those bricks. So having extra magazine size is just going to make it so you can deal more damage without having to stop to reload all the time. Of course, you could have things like extended mag, but that's going to really lower your reload speed. And that sucks on an LMG. It takes so long to reload. Of course, we have things like high caliber rounds and armor piercing rounds, which are both really strong options. And if you're using this for PvP, I would definitely recommend perks such as that. We'll go over a recap of our PvE and PvP God rolls at the end, so never fear. Now, finally, getting into the third column is where things start to get pretty interesting because Bungie has been sort of moving away from straight damage dealing perks, but we still have a lot of really interesting options here. We have things like Killing Wind, which is a new perk you're seeing on all sorts of weapons, where final blows increase mobility, weapon range, and handling for a short time. I really like this perk on a number of different weapons. It's very, very strong. We have things like Quick Draw, which isn't necessarily bad if you really need to whip out your LMG real quick, but I don't think I would recommend it here. Zen Moment is going to be something I think is going to be on the God roll. Zen Moment is very strong. That's sort of what I was saying before, where you're not so much going to need to worry about stability, because Zen Moment makes it so causing damage with this weapon will increase its stability, and it's noticeable immediately. As soon as you land one bullet, the weapon almost becomes like a laser. I mean, it's going to be straight shooting, and you're not going to have any problems controlling it. We also have things like Field Prep, which is going to give you increased ammo reserves. Not a bad option, but it's just never something I've leaned towards. It seems like there's stronger options to be filling this slot. When we get into the fourth column, here's where things start to get really interesting because there's one perk in here that shines just a little bit above the rest, and it might just be because it's new and I'm excited about it, but I think it's really strong, and it's this perk, Wellspring. This is a new one that just came out in Beyond Light, and it says kills with this weapon generate ability energy. This energy is divided between your uncharged abilities. That's a really cool perk, and it can make for some really fun power fantasy. You can use your melee ability, chuck your grenade, throw down a rift, and pull out your LMG and just start slaying out, and all of your abilities are going to start recharging just by getting kills with this weapon. It's really, really strong and really unique, and I like that I'm seeing it on some new weapons. We have a lot of other cool options as well. We have Demolitionist, which of course is a very strong option. You can reload it just by throwing a grenade, and kills with it will give you your grenade back. We have Tap the Trigger and Dynamic Sway Reduction. That's going to give you additional stability while you're shooting. And we also have Dragonfly, which is not a bad option at all. So there's some really unique roles available on this LMG. So now that we have a good understanding of what we're working with here, we can sort of get into a recap and my recommendations of what I would suggest for PvE and PvP. So you still with me? I know we went a little quickly through all of those perks, but I'm trying to work on keeping my videos a little bit shorter because I tend to rant, and my last God Roll video was about 17 minutes long, so I'm not going to keep you here all day. We're just going to do a recap of what I would recommend for PvE and PvP. Starting out with the PvE God Roll, as far as the barrel goes, I'm really going to say that's going to be up to you. Nothing here is gonna hurt you so much that it's just gonna destroy the weapon. I would recommend, if you're playing on controller, trying to get a little bit of extra stability out of your barrel options. But if you're using M&K or you're comfortable controlling the weapon, then definitely go with something like full bore or hammer forged rifling. Those are both max range options that'll help you slay out a little further at longer distances. Especially when you're clearing out things like lost sectors and high level content, you want to be keeping your distance from those enemies that can one-shot you. In the second column, I'm going to recommend Appended Mag for that additional magazine size, because I think that's a really nice benefit, and I think that's a weak point on this weapon is the magazine size. So bumping that up as much as we can is going to be a strong option. In the third column for PvE, I'm really going to recommend Zen Moment. I think this is a really strong perk, makes it extremely easy to control and very consistent, and I really love this perk the more I use it. I've been using it on a lot of different weapons now that Bungie's moving away from things like Outlaw Rampage or Outlaw Kill Clip. Zen Moment pops up on a lot of stuff, and on automatic weapons, it really makes a difference. And for the final perk, I'm going to recommend, of course, Wellspring, because one, it's new and it's fun to play with, but two, it's also very strong, especially with our new Stasis subclasses. It's going to give you those grenades and freeze abilities back very, very quickly just by using this weapon. As far as a masterwork goes, I would recommend range, of course. You can't go wrong with having a range masterwork on this weapon. Now moving on to the PvP God Roll, if you want to use this in PvP, it's not a bad option. I don't think it would necessarily be my first choice because it's a rapid fire frame and you don't get a ton of ammo inside of the Crucible, but you can totally use it, and there are some options here that make it a strong contender. Of course, in PvP, we naturally have to go with max range. So in that first column, you're going to want either full bore or hammer forged rifling. That's going to give you your max range across the board. In the second column, you're going to want to go with one of three options, either armor piercing rounds, high caliber rounds for that extra flinch, or ricochet rounds. All of those are going to give you additional range, and it'll help in the Crucible because they have additional effects causing flinch and extra damage. In that third column, I'm going to recommend Killing Wind because this is a rapid frame LMG. It doesn't necessarily have the greatest range. When you're used to things like Hammerhead that can just mat people, rapid fire frames sort of struggle in that department. But being able to push that range out just passively by getting a kill is going to be really strong in the Crucible. It can help you get a little more out of your ammo economy with this weapon. On that same note, in the fourth column, I will recommend either Dynamic Sway Reduction or Tap the Trigger. I think I'd rather go with Tap the Trigger because you're going to have such such a small ammo reserve in the Crucible, being able to take advantage of extra stability immediately instead of as you hold the trigger will be more beneficial to you. And of course, for the masterwork on this weapon, you're going to want to go with range across the board. It's funny how that works. We almost always want a range masterwork on our weapons. I really wish Bungie would just give it to us and let us switch those around. I don't know why they have to be such sticklers with the masterworks. But that's going to do it for your God rolls for the Thermal Erosion LMG. It's a very strong option. I'm still farming it out myself. I really want to get my hands on that Zen Moment Wellspring roll for some harder content because I really like that perk. I think it's really cool. But let me know what you guys have gotten on this weapon. If there's something I'm missing, something I'm sleeping on here, I would definitely love to hear about it and we can discuss it in the comments. So leave it down below. Again, if you found the video helpful, please leave a like below. Consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my Beyond Light content. There's a lot of new weapons to go over, and I'm going to be doing videos like this covering the best rolls on some of these really new, exciting weapons inside of the game. So thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate your time. Good luck farming out all these awesome new weapons in Beyond Light. Take care.